At the start of your business journey, or while you're on it, it can be a really, really lonely path. Where you are the everything in your business, you are the CEO, you're leading it, and at times it can feel really, really overwhelming. You're searching for all the answers, which can be really tiresome. Or there are times when you come across a solution, help, or guidance that you didn't know you needed. This is why I created Conversations With, the bite-sized training and learnings for light bulb moments, ahas, and finding those solutions you didn't know you needed. My name is Lindsay Burden, and I'm a business coach to ambitious women in business, empowering, inspiring, and guiding them to create a wildly successful business and a time-rich lifestyle. And today I am super excited because enough about me. I'd like to introduce you to Victoria Grant, founder, owner of Victoria Grant VA Services. Have I got that right?
You have, yeah.
And I guess a really good question is, are you a Victoria or a Vicky for the purposes of the video?
You can call me either. I've probably been called much worse. I'm generally Vicky by family and friends and people that know me.
Now, Vicky, I call you the productivity expert. But before we get started, I always ask my guests to write a little bit about themselves. So I'm going to read it because I like to get it right, and I shall clear my throat so we're ready. So you're a northerner, down-to-earth, genuine person who has a passion for helping small businesses achieve their dreams. Slightly obsessed with organization and administration. It's what you love to do, and you love to share that passion with small businesses and entrepreneurs. You know firsthand that having good processes and administrations can transform the way a business runs, taking it from a headache to a well-oiled machine. And I absolutely loved that. It's so true that by having the right processes in place, which really help put us in control of our businesses, I think. Would you agree, Vicky?
I certainly agree, yes.
Now then, there are some secrets to productivity, and you are going to share those secrets with us today. So, shall we start with secret number one?
Absolutely. So, I think when we are that business owner that has to do everything within our business, so you're the marketer, the social media expert, the product designer, the tea maker, the finance manager, it's all a bit overwhelming and everything still needs doing, and sometimes it can be really busy doing things that actually are the wrong things to be doing. So this is why productivity is so important. So my first secret is about getting it all out. Okay, so we've got all this stuff in our head swirling around, and we're not very good at processing things when they're in our heads. So the first task is just to get it all out. So what I'd recommend doing is, first of all, take a really big picture look. So where do you want to be in 5 years? When do you want to retire? When do you want to take that dream holiday, and how much will it cost? Just jot down, the things that you think are really big. And that will sort of help inform your processes for being productive now, today, even though they appear huge. And then zoom in a little bit and try and work on your next 12 months. What's that going to look like? Where do you want to be a year from now? And how do you want your business to develop? And when I say business, actually, for many of us, it's business and personal, because they're intertwined and one comes with the other. I don't really like this work-life balance thing when you're a business owner. It's whilst there's a place for work-life balance, actually quite often you are your business and you are your work, and there are boundaries to be put in place, but they intermingle a lot. So put the boundaries in place about the whole holistic rather than just one part of it.
That's a really good way of looking at it, because I'm like you, and I think many of my clients, we love what we do. We are what we do. And so therefore this work-life balance, it becomes quite difficult to separate them. And you've really described that well. It's about looking at the whole as opposed to one side or the other side. And that's a really good way of looking at it. The other thing I loved what you said, and I don't know why I was getting so excited about you sharing that secret, because I've got them written in front of me, but I was just so excited. But you mentioned some really big lifestyles, and you started by saying, what are the big milestones? What is it that you want? And I love that, 5 years ahead, when do you want to retire? The big holiday, what are the big milestones? And then you talked about honing it down. And then you ended that whole secret really by saying the work-life balance is about bringing the whole thing together. So you did that beautifully. And it's so true, isn't it? Getting it out there. And I don't know about you, Vicky, but I feel I'm a bit bombarded, and I see it quite a lot on LinkedIn. Other platforms are available, where it's, what are you using? And there's lots of talk about Trello, Asana, to name but two. But I've got to admit, I have come back to paper. Because I like writing it and thinking it.
I'm a big paper person too. And to get into that sort of the productivity today stage, I recommend starting with a brain dump actually, and just getting a blank sheet of paper. And if paper doesn't work for you, get your notes app out or your Asana or whatever does work. But just get a blank sheet of paper and spend some time just writing down everything that's in your head. That might be, picking your kids up from school, or it might be doing your next stage of your business. Just put it all down on paper. It doesn't matter about organizing it at the start. Just get it down there and get it out, because actually once it's out of your head, then you can start working out what needs doing where in a sequence of events. And I even did it with a client once, and we did it on post-it notes. And that was great. We had each thing on a different post-it note, but then we could move it around into different boxes. And that was really helpful. So yeah, just get everything down. And then what I like to do is get 2 different coloured highlighters. Organisers love highlighters, don't they? And highlight it work. So all your work tasks on your list, and then all your other admin life task things. So you've got 2 separate lists. So one's your personal list and one's your work list. And I tend to find that they're all jumbled up, because that's my mind works. So I've got to book the dentist appointment, and then I've got to do my finances. And, because like I say, you don't have that separation of we go to work 9 to 5 and then we come home. And so, yes, I get a list, get my highlighters. And then once you've got your pink personal list and your blue business list, then you can really start organizing into your to-do list from there. But I think the thing about a to-do list is they're just a bit rubbish, aren't they? We can all have a to-do list and a running to-do list, but you can end up getting very busy doing the wrong things, and you end up having a day just feeling exhausted and going, but I don't know what I did today.
Yeah, and that's where the importance of those milestones come in, isn't it? Because it helps you really prioritize the important things that you need to do in your business. That phrase that I love, make the boat go faster. What is it that's going to make the boat go faster? And this getting it out, women particularly, no disrespect to any men watching, but women particularly, we're holding a lot of actions. I always refer to when I have a weekend away with my girlfriends, I've made sure that there's food in the cupboard, and I know my husband's going to look after them, but do they need anything? And he packs a bag and goes. You're holding so much more. So actually this exercise of just getting it all out is really valuable. And for those moments, I guess, when you're feeling really, really overwhelmed, just getting it all out and writing it down. Apart from anything, it stops you thinking about it. We can get it down and then you can action it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can, for me, who is a super organizer, I'd then go further and break those lists down even further into high value tasks, which are the ones that firstly actually need doing, otherwise the world will grind to a halt. Or bring money into your business. It's very important to get those jobs done. So you have a level of high value tasks, which are your absolute priority to do. And then maybe your goal tasks, so things that will move you towards those goals that you thought about first, whether that be your life, your retirement plan, your big holiday plan, your retirement plan, those sorts of goals, and then a list of nice to do's and nice to have. So, I don't know.
I love that, because I was writing it down. That's why my head was down. It's like, I love that high value, that's your real priorities. But I love that you separated that from your goals as well. And then, the nice to do. And I've got a feeling we might come back to the nice to do later for one of the other secrets that are coming up. And that's really valuable. And I, in my paper diary, or my paper organizer, it's not really a diary, I have a section for personal to-dos, and that's been really, really helpful to me. So it doesn't get lost in the business things, but also I'm giving it that priority, and that's made a real difference to me. And even though it's in a separate column, I write it in a different color, which I know you'll appreciate.
Love it. Love stationery.
Who doesn't, to be fair? We may get more. So far, we've made. Someone should be doing a bingo. Which pieces of stationery we have mentioned? So far, we've done highlighters and post-its. Okay, so we've got it all out. What is secret number 2?
Okay, so secret number 2 is actually just getting it done. So how are you going to do this? Because it's all right having this really long list that you've nicely color-coded and organized, but actually, again, it's not very productive spending the time doing that if you're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
So quite often people will come to me and go, oh, my list is so long, I just feel so overwhelmed, which is true because we all have a long list, don't we? And actually, if you've just done a brain dump, you're likely to have just made that list even longer. But don't be overwhelmed. It's okay. We can deal with it. So the technique I would suggest everyone uses and has revolutionized the way I live my life, so business and personal life, is time blocking. So for those of you that haven't come across time blocking before, it is literally just blocking out chunks of time within your day that are dedicated to a specific task. So I time block everything. I time block food prep. I time block doing my social media posts. I sometimes time block playing with my children, which sounds awful, doesn't it? But actually, I can sometimes get to an end of the day and having not done it, I feel guilty. So if it's in my diary, I know I will do it. But certainly time blocking bits for your business really focuses your mind on doing those tasks for your business at that time. Yeah. So you are not going to lose those tasks in the ether of they've fallen to the bottom of my to-do list. And also, because you know you have a time when you are going to get to that task, you don't worry about it for the 4 hours before that task.
Taking the pressure off.
Yeah, I will deal with it then at 3 o'clock when I have time to do that.
I love time blocking. It's one of the things that I do share with my clients. If I can tell that they're particularly overwhelmed and they're not making progress and their to-do list is getting longer and longer, and I encourage them to create a timetable like you would at school. And I say, okay, well, if that's your admin time, how are you going to use that? Because even if you block it out as admin, I have a section in my diary called marketing. Now in my head, I know how I'm going to use it. But that alone, if I wasn't disciplined about it, that would be time that would be easily lost. But for me, it does work because I know exactly what I'm going to do in it. And I often have to encourage my clients, you can't just put admin. What are you going to do in that admin time? What does admin time mean to you? So I love time blocking. I think it's a really great way of getting into flow as well, particularly around content creation. If you're thinking about your marketing, once I'm in my marketing mode, we get more done.
Yeah. And there's something called Parkinson's law, which says that work expands and contracts to the amount of time you've got to do it. So actually, if you say first thing in the morning, right, I'm going to write all my social media posts for next week by the end of today, it will take you all day to do it.
Or not be done at all.
Yeah. Or if you say, right, I'm going to put an hour, 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock to do my social media posts for next week, chances are, if you protect that time, you'll do it within the hour and it'll be done.
It's so interesting, isn't it? We complain, and I say we because I know I have absolutely done it. We complain that we're overwhelmed and we've got too much to do, but then we choose not to use the time effectively that we do have available. I mean, how many times have I said to my clients, you are choosing to be busy, you are choosing to use your time in this way, but we all do it and we're all guilty of it, aren't we?
Yeah, and it is hard. And when you, I don't want to say, well, I will say derail yourself. Yeah, it feels a bit rubbish because we all do it and we get to the end of the day and think, what have I done? but just take a breath, reset. Tomorrow's a new day. And if anyone gets into that situation, I just say plan tomorrow. You know, work out what you're doing tomorrow, because you will immediately feel better today knowing that you have a plan for tomorrow.
Out of interest, and it's not a secret, anyone, but it might be another one. Out of interest, so do you plan when you finish your day, do you plan for the next day? How does that work for you on a daily basis?
So I tend to have a running plan of tasks that I know need doing most throughout the week. So most weeks look the same. So I'll need to do my marketing every week. I'll need to do, you know, certain client work will happen every day, every week. So I put all that in as recurring tasks in my calendar. And then the other things I'll slot in around them in the gaps. So I always leave a bit of overflow and a bit of gap. And then, so that is, you know, my recurring week to week. And then I do it in a Google Calendar, so if I get an appointment and things need moving around, I can just drag that hour-and-a-half appointment from a Thursday to a Tuesday. So I know that the time is still blocked and still protected. It's just happening at a different time. And then absolutely the night before, I think, right, before I shut down my computer, what needs doing tomorrow and when am I going to do it? And sometimes that might mean looking at the day that I did have planned and thinking, right, I'm just not going to get all that done because I'm just not, there aren't enough hours in the day, knowing that I need to get this task done that's really important. But yeah, being able to adjust. And I think something like a Google Calendar is really good for that, having that snapshot, being able to move things and then being able to see where your time's being used.
Yeah, I think that you hit on something really important there, that this is our business and we can work it in any way. So if you are protecting time to do something, but you are choosing, perhaps as an exception, in my business, Mondays and Fridays, I don't have client work. But there are times when a client may need to spend time with me. So I choose to give them that time. What I might do is I try and fit that time back into my diary somewhere else. So I'm giving them the time on the Monday, which is normally protected, but then I'm moving it around. And I, you know, absolutely like you, I quite often find myself moving things around, and that's okay to do. I guess it's also okay that if you end the day and you haven't managed to do what you've done, you know, I think it's really important that you look at your diary then really, really carefully. I don't know if you agree, Vicky, because what you don't want to do is go, right, well, I need to now squeeze that time all in the next day. And then, you know, sit back and look at your diary, look at the month, you know, and reevaluate and reprioritize, really.
Yeah, and I think that reprioritizing is a great example and great thing to do, because actually some things that are very important at the moment might not be that important in a month's time. So it might be that you have a period of doing, and then suddenly you think, actually, I don't need to do as much of that. I think social media content's a really, really good example of that, because at the start, you end up putting so much content out there, and then actually you realize you could probably repurpose a lot of your content, so it's not taking as long. So you don't need as much time blocking for it.
And I think I think it absolutely, it can be, particularly if you don't do any time blocking, particularly if you're not planning in any of the ways that we're talking about. When you first get started, it can feel a little bit uncomfortable and it can feel a little bit challenging. What I would say is stick with it and keep going until you find a way that works for you. You're not going to find the right system the first time. You're not necessarily going to get into it. You know, you're not going to suddenly plan like a ninja and be awesome at it the following day. It takes a little bit of time. And I was thinking about my own business in 9 years. And I've gone to various different systems, gone back to paper, gone back to systems, and now I have a little bit of online, but find that this particular planning system that I use works really, really well for me. But that's been, you know, time, you know, it's taken time to get to that point. And in part because I don't think I've been very good when I first started my business with secret number 3. So would you like to share secret number 3?
I can. So secret number 3 is about self-care. And does it really need to be you? So a bit like you, Lindsay, I've recently learned this. And I think sometimes we give so much to our businesses and we invest ourselves in them so much, we forget about ourselves within them and looking after ourselves within that. And I just think self-care is so important. And self-care will look different to everybody. You know, some people might need to go for a walk every day. Other people need to hit the gym 3 times a week. You know, some people will want to sit on the sofa and binge watch Netflix, while other people want to go and hang out with their friends. Yeah. And I think that if you can prioritize self-care in your time blocking, then that is invaluable to your business, actually. Yeah, and a lot of my clients will come to me and go, that's all well and good, but I haven't got time to go for a walk because I'm doing this, this, and this. And so I've reframed self-care as, actually, does it need to be you doing everything in your business, or can you outsource some of your tasks so that then you have a bit more time, either to work on the bits of your business that you really enjoy doing and you're really good at, and that bring you, you know, that life-giving pleasure that you went into business for in the first place, or so you can pick your kids up from school.
Yeah. It's so key, this part. And I always say, just the other phrase I use is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I think there are tasks in business that can be outsourced because, quite honestly, they're not your zone of genius and it's going to take you way longer. There are also those tasks that you might enjoy, and you know, you might be your guilty pleasure. You know, bookkeeping is my guilty pleasure. It doesn't mean to say that you should be doing it. So it's really important to look at the tasks that you're giving your time to that actually somebody else could do, and most likely do quicker. And that can be really hard, can't it, at the beginning of your journey, that outsourcing. And I know I waited way too long.
It can be super hard. And I think when, you know, people talk about outsourcing, there's obviously a monetary commitment as well, and that's always hard when you're running your own business and you've done it yourself, to then think, oh well, I'm going to lose X amount of pounds a month. And it is that reframing. Is it losing that money, or is it buying me something else?
I always use the example of getting a cleaner. So many years ago, to be honest, sometimes finding a cleaner can be hard work, but anyway, we thought we'd found one and she was going to start, and in my head I was going, do I really want to be giving this person, you know, what, I can't even remember what it was quite a few years ago. And I had to stop myself and go, what can I earn in that time? What can I do in that time? How will it benefit me? Okay, so now I don't have to worry about cleaning the house on a Saturday. That's taken the pressure off. Now I want to do something with my kids. I don't have to try and catch up with bits of housekeeping, you know, and cleaning and everything else during the week, so I can be focusing on my business. So I use the cleaner as an example, and I think it's a really great example, and to help you see that actually it is an investment in your business, in you, when you outsource. And I would absolutely say your business is really hard to grow a business when you are doing everything and you are in it every moment of the day, when you're not giving yourself that time that you talked about to step out and, you know, go for a walk and let the crazy ideas come and the solutions come. When you're in your business just doing, you're actually doing it a major disservice.
Yeah. And we get into business because of the lifestyle it will offer us eventually, you know. And so I think, well, if you haven't got any time to enjoy that lifestyle that you strived so hard for to start your business, then, you know, what are you doing it for? And again, it goes back to that first point, doesn't it, of the goals and priorities?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would highly recommend outsourcing. And I know, and the reason I love this particular secret, because I know I was guilty of it for 3 years. I did not get the help and support in my business. It took me a long time. And then when I did take on a VA, you know, you kind of wonder how you ever coped, you know, before. And the other example I use, I think sometimes we don't recognize the value, and if we just talk about your industry, you know, the virtual assistants can bring to your business. Now, we don't seem to mind paying for an accountant, but can't see the value necessarily in giving ourselves the hours back, and actually the value of virtual assistants, and I'm sticking with that one because that's the business that you're in. We don't see the value that you can bring, that virtual assistants can bring to our businesses. And I think it's a really great example of how it can create space to grow our businesses, space to focus on the important priorities, the high value, the goal priorities. And you will actually see a greater return on that investment than you can ever imagine.
Yeah. So just a quick story. I was doing some work for a builder, and we got established, and actually he just wanted me to manage his inbox. His inbox was just overflowing. He was in and out of it all day, just dealing with, literally, I went through every morning and just collated all the emails that needed to respond to. So the only email he had to look at every day was the one that came to me, and he'd reply with what he wanted me to do, and I'd send it back. And he thinks I saved him about 4 hours a day.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? That just that one task.
Yeah.
One of the things, Vicky, and this again isn't a secret, but it is a top tip. One of the things I suggest to my clients is when, as soon as they can in their journey, start to create a list of jobs they don't like doing, know in their heart of hearts they shouldn't be doing, or they can see can be easily outsourced. Because I think it really helps you to understand, because that is one of the biggest challenges that I see. Well, if I get a VA, I don't know what they do. You're like, well, there's loads of things they could do. So I always encourage them to write that list. And I wish I'd written that list, 2-3 months in and not 3 years in.
And I think it's okay to write that list and not be in a position to outsource at the time, because that's what this productivity piece is about, just knowing the tasks you have to do and the time you've got to do them. And it might be that you're not in a position to outsource straight away, but knowing that that is an option down the line, it becomes one of your 12-month goals, perhaps, that I don't want to be doing this in 12 months. And setting up good processes then, to then pass it on to someone.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that writing the list does is it helps you to detach from them very, very early on. And thinking about what you just said then, that you may not be in a position now, but it could be one of your goals in 12 months' time. It helps you detach, because certainly for me, I was like, well, they couldn't possibly do it like I do it. They couldn't possibly, and you get, and that in part is because it's your business, it's your baby, you are the everything to your business, you're doing everything. And then it becomes really hard to let go. And I think that list writing helps that detachment start early on, because you immediately know this is something I shouldn't be doing, or this is something that could easily be outsourced, or this is something that is not my zone of genius. So you're already detached from it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's another great, not a secret, but a great tip wherever you are in your journey. And if you're thinking, oh, Lindsay, I've been in business 4 years and I still haven't outsourced, start the list today. There is no time like the present. So we have shared 3 secrets and quite a few tips. Get it out, get it done. And that third one really was to make you the priority and take good care of you. One of the questions I always ask my guests is, if you were to start your business again, I love this question because it's like with a clean sheet, with nothing in place, what is the one thing you would do differently and why? And it's really interesting what you'd written down.
I can't remember what I wrote down.
You would definitely outsource.
Yes, I would. I was just thinking that, but yes, I would definitely outsource. And I'd certainly, when I started my business, I was thinking about tomorrow all the time. I'd certainly think longer term, even if that seems a bit scary. I think having a plan is definitely, that's what drives today's work.
You're so right. It's one of the things I wasn't very good at. I couldn't, when I started my business, I found it quite challenging to look past a year, really challenging. And there is an absolutely amazing local business owner, 4 offices, multi-million-pound turnover. And I used to go and have coffee with him, and he used to give me a time, and I used to be so grateful. And I mean, it was like going into the Google offices, with lovely coffee machines and all of that kind of stuff. And he gave me his time. And I remember the first day he said, "What's your 10-year plan?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. You've got to have a 10-year plan." And I actually came home and created a system for my own business that I then went on and shared in workshops and have used at various times with different clients. And that having that vision, and for me, that 10-year was just, it could be a bit wild and it could be a bit crazy because it's 10 years into the future, but it really helped me to come back. So what would the business need to look like in 8, 5 years, 3 years? Okay, so what do I need to do in the next 12 months? And it really changed the way that I looked at the business. So yeah, that looking into the future is so, so valuable. And it can be really, really scary. And it can feel like an impossible dream when you're just starting out. But
it can, but what fun, like thinking what you want to do. It's wild, isn't it?
It is, and I call it my planning with alignment document, and I do it every single year, and I go 10 years, 8 years, 5. I'm looking up because it's up there, so 10, 8, 5, and then 1. And I've just found it such an inspiring exercise to do, because you're right, it's so much fun, and it can be as crazy as you like. And just picking up again on that point that you've made about our life and business and it being interconnected. So the first half of my planning with alignment document is all about the business. So what do I want to achieve? And the second part is, what do I want to achieve in my life? Basically saying, this incredible business, what will it enable me to do? What will it allow me to do? What do I want it to enable and allow me to do? Yeah. So you would definitely outsource, and you would look into the future. And I just think that you have shared 3 fabulous secrets today, but you've also shared some great tips for increasing our productivity. And actually, you've done it in a way, for me, you've made it not scary. It doesn't have to be scary, and you can start with one change, one shift at a time. But those secrets are so, so powerful. I just wanted to say a huge thank you for joining me today. But before we go, how can people find you on the World Wide Web or any other place that you would like to share?
So it's my Sunday name on most social media platforms. So Victoria Grant VA, or victoriagrantva.co.uk is my website, and you can get all my details on there to email me or phone me.
And I will share them below as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lindsay.
Now, Vicky, before we bring this to an end, and nothing to do with business, I've realised I've still not moved. I don't know if I could point Yoda over here. Here it is, Yoda here. So I'd just like to clarify that Yoda is a Lego model made by my son, and he recently had a sleepover, and all the kids were in the spare room where Yoda was, and I'd moved him out for safety. And I really need to move him back in because I keep forgetting.
I think you should keep it. My son keeps reminding me, do or do not, there is no try, which apparently is Yoda.
Oh my goodness. So there you have it. We have drawn this to a close perfectly with wise words from Yoda. Thank you so much for joining me today, sharing your secrets, tips, and so much more.